Running Sentences presents A Thieves' Nightmare, Part 10. New Figures and New Problems. With this new species now out and about on this strange planet thing, Nico and company try to strike a new balance as negotiators to keep the peace. This is a work of fiction. Any names, characters, businesses, events, and incidences within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, real situations, real businesses and/or events, and/or fictional businesses, events, names, characters, and/or situations is purely coincidental. Copyright 2022, Michael Horner. All rights reserved. The figures escorted them back to the house, opening up a space for them to walk through that was clear of this alien forms. Julie and Combo were all too eager to take it and nearly ran as the others followed a bit more slowly. Even inside, though, they were still corralled along by these light figures until they were back in this theater and up on the stage. There, among the collection of dazed and confused elders, the three stood with Combo and Julie, while the ethereal light creatures were gathered in the seats aside from the one which was up on the stage with them. Excuse me, but is something going on?
This is our sentencing since you fools let them out of their cages. Now the worlds are going to end.
We keep getting told that the world is going to end because of this, but it still hasn't ended. Nothing has happened since these creatures have been let out. Yeah, as Dominique points out, if they were going to end it, Mr. Time Elder person, wouldn't they do it already? The Elder Timekeeper emerged from the dazed group and charged towards them, waving his fist. Nico recognized him as the man who had passed the verdict over them, of not yet ready to receive the gift of time energy.
We kept them fed, that's why. They lived like fat cattle from Earth, always fed and not wanting to move. Or maybe it was like fat humans.
A blob of ethereal light came between them and put up its arm to stop further conversation. The Elder backed away as he glared at them, then shaking his fist once more. Well, I suppose we shall get started then. Started on what? And if you could be so kind as to explain who and what you are for us idiots, please. It is not easy. You could try. You never know what we will and will not understand and get. And we, unlike our friends who decided we are idiots, aren't total idiots. Sometimes we just overthink things. The blob of light with its humanoid shape came towards them, studying them. It wasn't able to stay in one place for long as it kept losing light and disappearing before reappearing in front of them. How to explain? I am what you call time, but in a sense time that has been captured and released. You were right about one thing. That doesn't make any sense, and yet I still think I vaguely get it, so you're not completely right. Forgive me, perhaps I can better explain it. I believe your friend Dominique there set up a device that would take time from a place where it had loosely gathered thanks to old memories. I believe it is somewhat like that time. At least that's what I am. There are other versions of time as well. Dominique slid towards the elders with a blanched face, looking like she wanted to disappear. Oh, do not fear, lady. Many people have discovered us through such means. We do not hold it against people and are willing to give them some of ourselves to help discover things about themselves and their worlds. She stopped, but was still frowning. Still, it feels like I should say I'm sorry to you. We are all of us, us humans, are sorry what we have done to you. We didn't know. The alien shifted its gaze from Dominique to Temple. Aliens, I have found, rarely know anything other than themselves, and that is their only concern most of the time. It happens. And what you did is minor compared to these false elders. Did they do something? Like, they captured you and used you? There was a nod not only from the figure on the stage, but the many sitting in the seats. The elders and the two assistants trembled and huddled together, trying to get away from the stage, but not having anywhere to go, they just huddled there.
You are intent on killing everything. You needed to be controlled.
Our job was a mighty one. If we didn't hold you down and keep you locked up, space would cease to exist in short order. You were eating away at time. The two elders who had been so willing to talk to and speak to Nico and company came a few steps forward from the elders to announce this, shaking their fists and looking rather angry about how things were turning out, but then hurried back so that they didn't stand out too much. You did not ask or talk to us about this. You went and did it. Our planet was floating through space as it does, helping to keep time in check, and then you invaded us.
You ate an entire planet because it did something. We watched the event go down, and at that point we knew that we needed to stop you. It was a just and good invasion, though it was not much of an invasion.
Ate a planet? We have not done such a thing in our lives. We may have sent it back in time to when it was young and merely a rock, but we do not eat planets.
Sentence them already. Bring an end to their tyranny.
The cry from the crowd made everyone look over at them, as this group of aliens in the seats began to stand and chant. An aura of hostility came from the seats, and because of this, it looked rather like there was some steam that was coming towards the stage in waves of anger and frustration. Silence! There will be no rush to find a judgment for them. They rush to judge us. We cannot be the same as these fools. This figure's words bounced about as a silence came over this alien group in the seats. When calm was restored, the one on the stage turned back to these elders. Now, what is it that you have to say for yourselves on this matter? Why would you use us for your own means?
For the betterment of society and space. We said this already, and it is our only reason for our behavior. Cruel races of creatures must be stopped.
Yet you did not stop yourself from being cruel. We did it to save the world and know nothing of your ways. We keep time in check. This is getting us nowhere. You aliens have no interest in the rights of others. All you want is power for yourselves. Why else would you trap us to use us and turn us into energy? Nico found his head was beginning to swim round and round, much like both sides repeating their arguments ad nauseum. He wondered if he could step in and stop it. The thought sounded nice, but the way they were arguing it was not a likely one. He felt a nudge from his right and looked over to see Dominique, and then Temple looking at him, with Dominique doing the nudging with her elbow.
I feel like we should step in. And say what, Dominique?
Something? Otherwise we will be stuck here with both sides saying the same thing over and over again to you two. I don't know about you, but I get enough of that trying to watch political debates. You watch political debates? It helps to stay informed on issues, and not that they say anything, since it is all the same talking points over and over and over again without trying to address the issue at hand. But that is not the point. Why are you questioning me? Why are you questioning me after I agreed with you, Dominique? It caught me off guard. He wanted to protest, but couldn't think of the words to snap back with, so he stuck out his tongue. Temple shook her head and then stepped forward to get away from them. All right, the lot of you, shut up. From now on, the two sides will present their arguments to us three. We will act as arbitrators for what has happened, okay? The stares shifted from everyone and pointed towards Temple. She didn't waver, though she did move a minor step backward to grab a hold of Dominique and Nico to drag them into the spotlight as well. In the case of Time versus the Time Elders or whatever you aliens are calling yourself, we will be looking at all proclamations from both sides, and to make sure that this is a fair case, when one party is speaking, the other is forbidden from doing so. Okay? Is that good? There were murmurs from both the stage and the crowd watching. To Nico, it didn't seem like they wanted to go along with this idea, though there wouldn't be a good way to force it to happen, but pushing it along... He stepped forward and felt everyone's gaze fall onto him. The need to step a few steps back was strong, but he decided to stay firm where he was. Listen to Temple. You all want justice, and you all want fairness. This is the fairest and perhaps slowest way to it, but you will likely get to it. Nico, I don't think saying the slowest is helpful. He looked back at her with a shrug. But it is truthful, and if these lovely figures want to get anywhere and get this decided, then we need to be slow and thorough with them if they are honest with us. So, what do you say, alien races of time? He then turned to the group, expecting a reticent audience, and got exactly what he thought he would. Lots of murmurs about this and that, but no agreement right away. Why should we do this? What do we gain from this? Nico froze up for a second as he tried to come up with a solution. It was a good question, too, since why would they listen to him and his friends, aside from the whole seeking the fairness thing? But what if they didn't care about that part particularly? Because if you don't, then you will simply be destroyed by time, and time will eventually destroy itself, trying to destroy you. You may not think it is possible, but time can wait you out. If these creatures are being honest, time has all the time in the world to do as it wishes, and it will wait. Dominique came forward as she pronounced this, which brought nods from the seated area. Would you rather have us decide what your fate might be, or have your enemies decide what your fate might be, while they can wait you out? I have also seen what an unleashed angry time can do. The rebound effect. I believe you also know all about it. A rebound effect that your group has pointed out. A glance from Dominique to Nico made him reach out into his pocket and feel around for the marble he carried. He found it and pulled it out to show it off. This can happen when time gets angry, or is made angry by machines pumping in something extra. An entire island from our world vanished in a second. People were taken and never seen again. Elders or keepers of time, whatever you call yourselves, do you want time to decide your fate at some later date? Or you can have some say in the matter. You can do it right now, or you can be swept away by time as time destroys itself, trying to destroy you. We will give you a minute to talk to your group, but we need to know quickly. The trio stepped back and watched as the elders, who were the keepers of time, huddled into a couple of groups on the stage. A few words were shared or shouted between the little cliques before a small consensus was reached. We will agree to this on a condition. Always with the condition. Everyone always has to have their say. Okay, what is it, Miss Keeper Diana? Yes, of course we have a condition. We can't agree to things if it is going to go against us before we have a say in our matters. Okay. Out with it then. Temple's abrasiveness was not going over well with the elders, who grumbled. We want 10-minute breaks built in so that we can keep our message solid. The trio looked over to the ether-like creatures that called themselves Time. There were a lot of shrugs all around, from the one on the stage to the group in the seats, and everyone just sort of shrugged. Can we all agree to that? After a few seconds, there were nods aplenty, but the trio kept staring at these shapes that called themselves Time. These elders wanted something. Time alien group race that is light-like. Do you have a request? Oh, please call me Lost Time. It might make things easier for you. Okay, Lost Time. Do you have any request like that or something else? Yes, we do. We want this to be heard quickly and as soon as possible. We are guessing that this is what you are already intending to do. Yes, we can do that, but for now we want to give you a few minutes to collect yourselves, and so that you know what your story is to tell to us. Dominique's stomach grumbled after this, causing everyone to look at her since it was a bit loud. We also have a request, and that would be food, so that we can continue to think and recharge and be able to deal with your case. So, we will do what you ask, but for now, everyone take a few minutes while we, and specifically Dominique, try and go find some food. Temple then moved to grab Nico and Dominique, propelling them out as quickly as she could. There was a rumble of talk from the rest, but it was ignored as they went. Nico broke free of Temple's grasp to get the door open for them, since Temple didn't have a free hand at that moment. They fled, and somehow, with a bit of luck, found a kitchen, which they then set about using to make some food. There were a few hidden tools that were alien and foreign, which were soon hidden away once they were found because they couldn't really use them. And despite all of that, they did manage to make something that looked like food. And since there was a table in the kitchen, they all sat down to eat. But instead of eating, the trio switched between staring at their food and each other. We have to stop this. What, the staring or the whole court case? Maybe both, Dominique? We can't avoid both, you two. No, Temple, we can, but it would probably be rather ill-advised, since the whole thing of time and space might go up in a big bang. This might be the beginning or the end of time, then. His comment drew looks from his two friends. Don't start thinking about silly things now, Nico. We can't keep running away from this, and we have to do our level best to keep things even for both parties. Not that the elders have done much to keep things even, right, Dominique, from what we've seen. Still, Temple, we have to try, and we need to try, otherwise they won't listen to us. Yes, of course we will try and look at it all when they present themselves and their case. How they will do that, though? There was a momentary pause as both women were staring at one another, trying to figure out their best way around this conversation. I guess that's the one thing we need to make sure of. We go into this with no thoughts leading us one way or another. And our other problem is if they will accept our ruling. They sat back as they considered this, picking at their food and trying to eat it while thinking. It wasn't going well, since what they had was mostly a bland, tasteless thing. This was soon interrupted when one of the lost time creatures appeared in the doorway and sort of floated there. I guess it's time to go, maybe? Judging from the creature in the doorway. Away we go, then. The trio stood up, abandoning their half-finished meal, and soon followed this creature back to the theater. They were soon back on stage with everyone else. The crowd of aliens felt more hostile to Nico, who kept looking about. The stage had also changed up a bit, with now a few chairs up front, and there were fewer of the Time Elder people, our aliens, up there now. On the left, there was a few chairs where a selection of these elders sat. Then in the middle, there was 3 empty chairs, which Nico was guessing for them. And then finally on the right, sat a few chairs with the aliens who had claimed that they were time. They looked more like light, but they claimed what they claimed. The trio went to the center seats and took them up, which made the place hush. They looked to one another, and with a shrug, Nico stood up and began clearing his throat. All right, I guess we can call this session of finding the truth into session. We will like to hear quick statements from both sides as to what they think has happened, and the not necessarily evidence, just statements this time around. I guess we will start with the elders. He pointed off towards the group that was solidly alien and not light. There was some shuffling about until one of the elders, who looked actually rather young, stood up. The trio in the center all craned to look at this alien who they'd never met before. My name is Brian, and I am a helper and a keeper of time. I was around when we found this world that circles onto itself as it floats through space. Our ship found it one night, and well, we decided to start trailing it out of curiosity about this strange place when it approached another planet. That planet, when it came across and went through the interior of this ring, this hole in the middle, then vanished. If that isn't an act of taking away planetary civilization, I don't know what is. It was a terrible sight to see. Nico scowled at the information, a face that was matched by his friend's. It all sounded convenient and, well, ill thought out. They then turned to look at the time aliens. Lost Time or any of your fellow creatures? It is your turn to send up a speaker on behalf of your claims. One of the humanoid shapes rose from their chair and stood.
I am what you would call, name-wise, Lost Data. We live on this planet as it floats through space, helping to adjust time where it has gone wrong. Sometimes it gets lost and we return it. Other times it has been taken by aliens, so we must speed things up so that everything catches up with the right moment. We have never, though, destroyed or made a planet disappear.
With that said, the figure sat back down. There was no scowling from this, since it sounded plausible-ish. However, it was not convincing either. Nico shook his head. At least they'd been quick about their first comments. But what to do now? Okay then, we need both sides to explain in detail why they believe what they believe, and, of course, with evidence that backs them up. If you have no evidence, then we will be forced to say that we cannot trust what you have said. There was a small ripple of discussion among the gathered, but they quickly hushed themselves when Dominique rose from her chair. And we also need to know why you think the opening statement of the opposition was wrong. Remember to listen to what is being said. There seems to be a giant gulf of logic where both sides appear to be jumping before they know all of the facts, judging from these first statements. She sat back down with a sigh, and the trio looked at one another with nods and shrugs. It sounded official and good. Problems remained with the fact that they didn't know what they were doing. Nico felt lost, but also piped up his own 2 cents to the matter. Lost Time and his group, you will get to speak first this time around. Lost Data was soon pushed to the front by the others of his race, and he stood there, sort of looking backwards and then forward. Really there was a tentativeness and a tentative step forward, and then a clearing of his throat.
We have been accused of stealing a planet by having it fly through our ring. That is simply not possible, as we have no way of controlling where this planet goes. It just floats through space. There is no steering wheel or, as those who have captured us can attest to, and they probably have looked all over our planet. We just float. We don't steer it. We're attracted to where time is going wrong. We don't have a way of eating planets. It's all on the whims of space and time. It's not our fault if a planet disappears. There was a grumble from the other side, from the elders who now refused to look at the man talking about them. You can check this planet up and down as my proof. You will find nothing. As for the part of being captured and sent through the machine time and time again, we were busy trying to keep time steady when suddenly gardens began landing on our ring. The smells and stench of this new thing caused us to panic and try and flee. But then those shacks landed and we could do nothing as we were suddenly forced into the ground. We were sucked into these tubes and I don't understand it. We were just in the tubes forever, going round and round and round. It was horrible.
Angry grumbles of support came from the seats of the theater, where a few figures stood up. A cold stare from Temple managed to quiet them down, but there was a little noise that persisted. And, what evidence do you have of this?
You can check under the grounds of the gardens. We do not need dirt or anything like that. We didn't even need this house, and yet here it is. All of the buildings were built by those creatures sitting smugly over there. They ruined what was once a pristine place. It had everything we wanted and needed, and we need none of this and yet now we have it.
The figure of lost Data then moved back to his or her seat, taking it up and getting lots of handshakes and back pats from its fellow beings. The trio of Nico, Temple, and Dominique turned towards the elders. Well, it is your turn to respond to both claims and make your own elder keepers of time. The elder, Brian, who had spoken up before, was once again up and forward, looking angry and self-righteous. His hand was waving in the air, sweeping it about to signify the group before them. The claims of this planet of being stone are false. There was dirt for growing things and a massive house that spans the ring well before we arrived. Even the shacks were here when we came. And as for proof that this is made up, all you have to do is dig into the ground. You will eventually find that there is stone down there, but there is more than enough dirt to support life, and it goes way down. And by the way, who lives on a stone with nothing to do? It doesn't make sense. The air had gone tense and quiet as a staring contest commenced between the two sides. Nico edged forward in his seat and made a motion for the elder to keep talking by moving his hand round and round. As for the planet eating by going over it, by simply traveling over it, we have a video evidence of it happening. You can see it for yourself. A screen dropped towards the back of the theater behind them, and they all turned at the noise. A second later, it flickered to life, showing a black and white image that was moving stiffly. A ring appeared in this sort of black and white specked thing, and it was moving towards a sphere-like shape, and then it crossed over it. This sphere then disappeared a second after it had been passed over. It looked to Nico rather off, and if he was judging it correctly, there was many cuts in the film that it didn't have the sphere, and it looked like things had been cut out, and not everything was being shown, and it also didn't look very realistic. Okay, that looked interesting. Yes, something like that. Yes, Dominique. Do you have a better version of this recording that's, let's say, not as jerky, is more up to date, up to definition, something? No, this is the best we can do with our technology. This is all we have to say on this case. We acted in the best interest of space and saving things from those creatures. You did not do this to save space. It was a hostile takeover. No, it was all about saving things from your evil clutches as a group and messing with time. Nico shot up out of his chair with some force, sending it a few inches back, but not clattering down onto the stage on its back. He looked between the two arguers. What did we say? And if your answer isn't no arguing the other person's point, then get off the stage. Neither moved, but they also didn't say anything, remaining that last bit defiant in the face of matters. Well, I don't know if we can trust that little video, and the evidence for all of this is apparently in the ground, so I will recommend that we call today over. Everyone finds a respective spot to cool down in and away from others, and then in the morning we will meet at one of these gardens or shacks, and then we can dig into this ground. Is that okay with everyone? Why wait? Yes, why should we wait? Because you two have decided not to listen to anyone anymore. If you can't listen and just want to talk about how you're right, there is no point in the truth, and your two groups will destroy one another. We are a peaceful race. No, we are the peaceful ones. You things use and abuse time to make planets and probably entire solar systems vanish slowly or quickly. No one even knows you exist, and then you're upon them like creatures from the dark side of space just going... Nico looked to both Temple and Dominique, who were now both up from their chairs and trying to get the two groups to leave the theater, waving their hand at them and shooing them away. There was a little more talk, but the two sides were beginning to eventually move away and stop arguing. There was, of course, plenty of disagreement, but eventually everyone separated for the night for an uneventful sleep. One that didn't provide much rest for Nico and company, as they were awoken early and pulled out to a nearby garden. There they were handed some shovels, as the watchful eyes of both groups stared at them. Realizing that there was nothing to be gained by questioning things, Nico sank the shovel into a soft ground and began working. Temple and Dominique did not join in his efforts. It would be quicker and easier if both of you helped out. It's also nicer to see someone else do the work. Dominique, however, dug her shovel into the dirt as well. What is your plan, you two? To dig? Yeah, but if you two just dig, you're not going to end up with anything other than an inside of a hole. It just doesn't work out. You won't be able to get out, and you'll find yourselves with problems digging yourself out because you can only go down, and if you try digging your sides, you'll have nowhere to throw your dirt. What do you mean, Temple? We want a hole in the ground to provide one of these sides right. We can't do that without digging a hole in the ground. Yes, Dominique, you want a hole, but if you don't dig it correctly, then you'll wind up in a shallow grave with piles of dirt around you and you can't get out. Like I just said, these creatures will probably just kick the dirt back into the hole and call it a day, leaving you under the dirt. The two had stopped digging, having only managed to dig a little bit away from the topsoil, a good couple of inches anyway, and Dominique turned to Temple, resting her shovel on the ground. Well then, O mighty person who knows all about digging, how would you have us do it? We dig on a slope, and we go down slowly so that we can have space, that we can move up and down. Dominique looked over to Nico, who shrugged, and she shrugged to him as well. The two began doing this, with Temple also digging on occasion, but mostly doing a lot of supervising over what they were doing. A move that seemed to have her doing more standing around than helping, and it took them more than a few minutes, but they would eventually reach the rocky bottom of the ground. Not able to dig any further down, they dug around this rocky area on the bottom of their little hole to make sure it was in fact not some sort of boulder or stone that some big type occasionally comes up when digging into the ground. It did keep going, and it seemed like it was the bottom of everything. So both groups were crowded around to see them as they came out, dirty and more than a little tired. Well, that was, the evidence was, not terribly conclusive either way. How can you say that? Yes, the ground is right there, and it is deep. It isn't deep. My correction, we don't have a term for deep, but whatever it is, that does not appear to be it on the ground thing. It's 8 feet of dirt, which is a decent amount, but not deep, as pointed out. And anyway, neither of you have actually proved anything. Your evidence is lackluster, and unless you can come up with some other stuff, we will have to shortly make a ruling. After saying this, Dominique went over towards Nico to lean on him tiredly. He did his best to hold himself up, as he was also leaning, but against his shovel, which he'd planted into the ground. Both groups of aliens split off into their respective cliques, with glances thrown at each other to see what the other was doing. It was all amounting to pretty much nothing more than mumbled noise that kept going. We will have to press you for an answer if there is any more evidence. The mumbles from both groups continued unabated as they ignored Temple. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time is up. Temple shrugged and Dominique took a minor step forward, but then grabbed a hold of Nico so that she could continue holding herself up. Due to neither side providing evidence, we will consider all that has been said, but it will be alone from your groups. Do not try and disturb us during our deliberations. Thank you.
She grabbed a hold of Nico, using him more as a way to keep herself upright as they moved towards a nearby shack. Temple had taken a hold of Nico's other side so that he didn't fall over from Dominique. They got inside, and Nico and Dominique sort of fell over as Temple let go to make sure that the door was closed. Secured in that they were alone, Temple turned to the pair who sort of lie there exhausted. You two make quite a pair. You didn't help. Had you contributed a little more digging, we wouldn't be in such a state, Temple. Whatever. What are we going to do now? Both sides aren't telling us the truth. What can we do? They don't seem to want to talk to us, and now that I thought about it, they haven't really explained how time can steal people away, or do anything to people, or aliens. Well, we can relieve them of the planet. Do what now, Nico? What Temple said. What are you talking about, Nico? Nico struggled to get up and eventually managed to do so, leaning against the shack since his body was trembling in pain and muscle spasms. The workout of shoveling had made lots of enemies, mainly those in his arms, legs, and abdomen that were muscular in nature. We tell them neither can stay here. They haven't provided evidence of stopping bad things, nor have they proven that they were invaded by the other alien time things, whatever you want to call them. Lost data, lost time, whatever those creatures were. The elders didn't prove that by putting the creatures in these machines that it was stopping bad things. In fact, how did time get to Earth? There's just so much they haven't explained. Nor have the time aliens proven that they were invaded. We simply don't have a choice, and our worst possible choice is to send them away since they won't like it, but they haven't told us anything, so what are we to do other than send them away? How would that solve anything? Won't they go and start up some new planet? Well, yeah, potentially. Our only hope is that we send them in different directions and don't tell them which way the others went. It is not much of a plan. Dominique had gotten herself straightened out a bit and sat beside him, trembling slightly as well. Well, Dom, our other choice is to go back home and leave them here fighting. I don't think that's a great plan either. They all fell silent and cast far-away looks as they thought about the matter. The sound of footsteps thumping about outside the door against the ground was all that was keeping them company at the moment. We can't go home without getting in trouble, and if we make a choice here, we are likely to get in trouble, though if we do send away these aliens, we might have a planet to ourselves. I don't think they would let us stay even if we sent them off, Temple. No, you're right about that, Dom. They would probably find out and come back and evict us. Well, we go home then. Tell both sides to knock it off, live together, or they will have to leave. Then get them to open a door so we can go home, and that's that. But what do we tell those at home? Aliens won't let us have time as an energy source. If they want it, then they have to prove themselves to be good people. Otherwise, they'll never learn how to get it from the aliens. I don't think they will buy that. Temple, what do you think? You were always a bit closer to Hunter Lewis than I was. You should know how he will act these answers. I was not closer to him. You merely think that because you saw me around him a few times. Anyway, I don't know that either party will accept that we can't do anything. What will they do to us then? Well, Particle Corp probably will eliminate us so that they don't have any loose ends. Temple nodded to this. And Hunter, though I don't know him as well as Dominique insists I do, might not kill us right away. But he will keep an eye on us depending on his mood. Not that anyone would believe the fantastical yarn that we have to tell. Nico nodded, accepting both Dominique's and Temple's comments. Life wouldn't be easy going back, and it likely would mean death. But what could they do about it? He went over some ideas in his mind, but all were quickly put to the side as unacceptable, since the two parties on Earth would not say yes. Well, the least we can do is go talk to those outside and give our verdict to them. What is our verdict, Dominique? Nico moved a bit forward to stop the two from starting an argument. They have told us some form of the truth, but haven't told us the whole truth, and haven't explained how time works. Since we don't know who to trust, we find both parties guilty of sabotaging. Guilty of what? What do you mean, guilty of sabotaging?
Oh, I don't know. It was just an idea. Nico said this with a shrug and then sort of stepped back, trying to think some more.
The trio fell into silence. This was not as easy as they thought it was going to be. The choice of how to deal with a group of people who all refused to tell the truth left them thinking about how two entire groups would have to give up what they knew. What's that? Condemning a race of beings for their actions and unwillingness to deal with one another? Could that be right, or was it wrong? Nico was struggling with that thought, and from the looks of his two friends, who both had puzzled faces, they were too. We should send them away from this planet and finish destroying the machines. Both groups, you mean? Yeah, they don't trust one another, and the second one of them gets the planet and the other one gets sent off, well, the first group's gonna turn right back around. Leaving one here or both here simply won't work. I think we all realize that. There were nods as he got up slowly, still trembling a bit, but trying to look confident. He turned and helped Dominique up, who accepted it and slowly rose herself, also still shaking a bit. They turned to the door with a deep sigh and went back through it. Right outside the door stood Lost Data and the keeper Brian, both of whom had been representing their respective alien races. They crowded the door as the trio tried to emerge out, making a bit of a tangled mess of getting out. Eventually, Nico pushed his way through the two representatives, who backed up and gave them room after realizing that they were in the way. With the two women on either side of him, Nico stopped a few feet outside the door, looking at the lawn that was filled with both races of aliens. They almost seemed fine with one another right now, but there were a few that seemed agitated about things. He opened his mouth to speak, then put up one finger and swung around to talk to his friends in a whisper. I'm going off script. We don't have a script, Nico. I know, Dominique, but so you aren't surprised that things are changing, I'm telling you now. Script is gone, okay? Temple? Dominique? The two shared a look as he swung about to face the group again. Our decision is that some of you may stay, but some of you must go. And by that, I mean the leaders of your race, of your respective races, are the ones that should leave. They don't want peace, and they want to take advantage of you. If you have no qualms with one another, then you can stay here on this planet, living together, helping one another out. There were murmurs among the crowd who didn't appear sure of what to make of this. A crowd of the elders and probably senior figures of the time-light alien things came towards the trio. What makes you think you can simply send away the important people of our race? Nico pointed towards the sky above them, and they all looked up to see what was there. I'm willing to bet that your spaceship is still up there in case you needed to make a quick getaway for whatever reason. I'm also willing to go out on a bet and say that some of the aliens don't want to leave here, and if I'm sending ones away while they can stay, they'll probably agree to my terms. There was now some nervous looks at the sky as a spaceship began to descend downward towards them. You can't do this. We need more than one spaceship, or we will wind up killing each other. You don't want to see what those things can do to us. No, I don't want that stain of a sight on my mind. However, you've given me no choice and no answers. I do think that a single spaceship forever orbiting this planet ring until you learn to get along with one another sounds like a fitting way to deal with this, though. Unless you two groups can find a way to agree with one another, you'll forever be circling around and around. If you can find that agreement, though, you perhaps can return. We have done nothing to deserve this. You lied and hid the truth, so until you creatures of time learn that your choices have consequences, however long that may take, you will have to also live in that ship. Learn and you will come back. Or, if you want, you can explain to me all that has happened and why it has happened, including how time can attack and how it wound up on Earth of all places. You have no way of enforcing this on us. We don't have to leave your lost data, but since we will be leaving, your subordinates will be the ones who decide your fate. They will have the power, and you can take it up with them. And to make things fair, if the time creatures are able to come back, it will be decided by the Elder Group, and if the Elder Group that are getting sent up in this spaceship can only be approved, the light time aliens, to come back after they've proved themselves. The ship had landed not far away, and the leaders of both groups were suddenly being herded away, leaving the trio alone, aside from one last lone time figure. Hi, you three want to go home, right? If we could, but we'd recommend you make sure that the machines are destroyed and that you figure out some new leaders as soon as possible. The figure nodded to Temple, and then, with a hand, made a large rectangle-like shape in the air. It began to glow and reach towards the ground with the bright light it was casting, slowly fading away. A doorway soon became visible, and it looked like a regular earth door, wooden, with a metal handle, and simple. The trio stared at it and decided to themselves, home lie beyond that door. I should warn you that this is the first time I've ever created such a thing, so it might lead to somewhere strange. Like where? The figure shrugged as the door continued to solidify into an actual door, and when it looked real enough, it suddenly opened, and out came a rather small, squishy-looking blob of a creature that looked at the trio.
Excuse me, but is this the space court renowned for helping to stop a war between time and theory alien races?
Nico felt his jaw go slack and wanted to say something, but Temple came around behind him, slapped her hand over his mouth, and as he looked over, saw that she had done the same to Dominique. Yes, why yes, it might in fact be that, if that's okay with the other two races here. They found themselves looking, with the help of Temple, towards the one who had made the doorway appear. That creature shrugged.
Good enough.
For now, and for us to not have to leave or go anywhere dangerous for our lives. Now what's your problem?
End of part 10 and the end of A Thieves' Nightmare.
Thank you for listening.